Hello and welcome to Relatable Code. In this video, we're going to talk about foreground services in Android. So let's get started. In this video, we're going to create an application that can play some music with the help of a foreground service. It will have two buttons, play music and stop music. If I click on play music, you will notice that some music will get played. Okay, and you will see this notification because of the foreground service. And if I click on stop music, the music will get stopped, basically. Okay? Services are components that run in the background, and they are used to perform some long-running operations or to handle some network transactions. Unlike activities, which are designed to provide a user interface, services don't have an interface. And you normally use a service to do something like download a file or sync some user data, play some music in the background, like our example, or for example, to track the fitness level of a user, to measure how many steps he or she took within a day, or for example, the GPS that you have in your phones. When you open your Google Maps application, that's a service that's running. You have two main types of services in Android. You have started services and you have bound services. With respect to started services, they are meant to perform a single operation, and they don't intend to return a result to the caller of this service. Okay, like for example, when you download a file, a service like that doesn't let you know when the file is downloaded. Okay, and normally, a service like that isn't bound to any activity. Okay, unlike bounded services, which offer a client-service interface, allowing components to interact with that service, to send requests, and to get results in return. Okay, whereas the started service that we will use in this example will just be a simple service that will help us play some music. Activities interact directly with the user through the UI, whereas services work in the background, so they have a certain life cycle. Okay, and they have a life cycle different from the life cycle of the activities because they are meant to perform some operations that should continue even if the user is not directly interacting with the application. With respect to Android, you have foreground services and you have background services. Foreground services are those services that the user is actively aware of, and they are not subject to the system killing them when the system is low on resources, because this system places a high priority on foreground services, and they must display a notification to the user. Whereas background services run in the background and do not interact with the user. In recent Android versions, they have some limitations to improve device performance and battery life as well, because background services have been limited due to their impact on those factors with respect to the performance and the battery life. With respect to the user, foreground services show a notification, and they are not likely to be killed by the system, unlike background services, which are more likely to be killed by the operating system. With respect to our case, we're going to create a foreground service because we want our user to be aware that the application is playing some music, and we don't want the system to interrupt that music when it's playing for any reason. Okay, which is why it's a high priority task. It should be exposed to the user, and as a result, it should be a foreground service. With respect to this application, I have given you a nice starting point. I have already included the MP3 file that we will play for the music, and I have already created these buttons in the activity main XML file. Okay, we only have a play music button and a stop playing music button. And with respect to our activity, it only registers these buttons with the help of view binding. And now we can start by putting all of the pieces together, and we can begin with the basic actions that are required for our application. We have play music and we have stop music. And for that, we can create an enum to help us with these actions. Okay, let's start by creating that enum in the folder right there by right-clicking and going to New, Kotlin class or file, and we can name that Music Service Enum. Okay, go ahead and create that. And here we need two values. We need start music and we need stop music. Okay, that's all we need for that enum. And now we can create the service itself. So let's go ahead and create another Kotlin class or file. And let's name that music service. Okay, music service will have to extend, you guessed it, a service. Not that service, we have to extend another type of service, which is android.app. Okay, after you do that, you can go ahead and implement the members, which in our case will just be unbound. But since this is not a bounded service because it has a life cycle independent of our activity's life cycle, we don't need to bind it to the activity. So inside onBind, we can just go ahead and return null. Okay, that's all you need for that, because with respect to this service, when we start the service from our activity, a certain function will get called, and that function is onStart command. Okay, this is like the onCreate of your main activity. Services also have an onCreate method like this, but the difference is that this is called when the service is created, but this is called when the service is started inside our main activity. And you can start and stop a service several times, but you only need to create it once. And we can actually make use of that onCreate function, at least for the initial setup of our video, to create something called a notification channel. Okay, because we agreed that when the service is started, like when we click on play music, you will see a notification. Okay, and with respect to notifications in Android, starting from Android version Oreo and above, you will need to create a notification channel for your notifications. Okay, so we can handle that with our onCreate because we only need that channel to get created once. We don't want to create that notification channel after every time we start our service. We only need to create it inside the scope of our onCreate function right there. And at the end of the video, I will show you a better practice, at least, to create a notification channel, where we will create it inside the application class. Okay, but for now, let's create it inside our services onCreate so that you can see how it works, basically. So underneath onCreate, let's create a function, and let's name it create notification channel. Just like that, we can create a notification channel right here with val notification channel equals to notification channel, open your parentheses, and here you will need three values. Okay, you will need an ID, you will need the name of the channel, and you will need the importance. Let's start with the ID. It needs to be a constant, which you will use in the notification as well, not just the notification channel, so that you can bind them together. So let's create something like notification or music notification channel if you want. Okay. And for the name, you can name it music channel like that. And with respect to the importance, you can use notification manager right there with importance default. Okay. And if you hover over this, it says this requires API level 26, because as I've told you, this is something related to Android Oreo and above. Okay, so go into more actions and click on this option, surround with this if else statement. Okay, let's actually remove that from there, and let's move that into there and remove that else statement. So there we have our notification channel. Next, we need our system service itself. Okay, so let's do that. by creating this system service, which will be our notification manager, with notification manager equals to get system service. Go ahead and import that, and here you will need notification manager class.java. Okay. After you do that, you can go ahead and write notification manager dot create notification channel and pass your notification channel. Okay. As we've agreed, this notification channel will be necessary for our notifications, especially with Android versions 26 and above. So inside onCreate, we're going to create this notification channel like that. And now when our service is first created, this notification channel will get created just once. Okay. After that, we're going to work with our onStart command function. Okay. So inside this onStart command, we're going to intercept our intent, and we're going to check if our intent contains an action like start music or stop music. Okay. So you can do that above the return super method right there with when intent, add a null check and add dot action. And here you can specify that you're looking for this action, for example, with MusicService enum dot start music dot toString. Here you will take an action, and you will take another action as well with stop music. Okay, so you will need a function for start music like this, and another function for stop music like that. So when you get start music, you're going to call start music, and when you get stop music, you're going to call this function stop music. Okay, that's it for the setup of our onStart command, and now we're going to work with our start music function. So inside this function, we're going to have to create our notification, and we can do that with another method. We can create a method here for create notification. This will be different from our notification channel because it will be the notification itself. Okay, so let's create that with val notification equals to notification compat.builder. Our builder will expect a context and a channel ID. So as a context, you can pass this for the service, okay? Because we agreed that a service is a kind of Android component, like the activity and like the fragment. So it has a life cycle and a context of its own, okay? So pass the context here. And for the second parameter, you will need the channel ID. The channel ID which we used right there, okay? So copy that and paste it right here. And after dot builder, you can do things like set content title, for example, for your notifications title. This will be our music player title. And after dot set content title, you can set content text, for example, music player content, or for example, playing music. And similarly, you can also set an image for this notification. And you can do that with set small icon, like that. Okay, so you can pass something like r.drawable. For example, this foreground icon or your background icon inside your drawables folder. Okay, that's how you set up your notification. But right now, if you hover over this notification, it will be a notification compat.builder. In order to have a notification, you will need to call the .build function. So let's do that right here with .build. And now we have a notification. Okay, so we need our method to return a notification as well, so that we can use it inside our start music function. And when you return that, you will now have to, instead of creating this notification and then returning it, you can directdirectly do something like this. Return notification compat.builder. You set up your notification and then you call the .build at the end. Okay. So now inside our start music method, we can create this notification with val notification equals to create notification. Okay. That's how you do that. And now we will start our foreground service. And we can do that simply with start foreground, which will expect an ID and a notification as well. For the ID, you have to pass 1. And for the notification, you will pass the notification that you created here. Okay, be careful with the ID. It has to be 1 for your foreground service to work. And that's about it for our start music function. It will basically start our service and we will add the music later on. Okay, and same thing will go for our stop music. For now, it will only just stop our service. Okay, and that can be done with a single function, which is stop self in our case. Okay, stop self will kill our service and start music in this case will create a notification and start our service with this notification. Okay, that's the setup that you need for your music service for now, before we add our media player to it. And next, we're going to start the service from our main activity. Okay, we're going to do that inside our btn play music and our btn stop playing music as well. Okay, inside our main activity, we can start our service with a simple intent. Okay, so we can create an intent here. Let's call it start service. Intent equals to intent. We're going to pass this for our current activity, and we're going to pass our music service. Okay, it will be music service class.java, and we're going to have to pass an action so that we can intercept that action inside our onStart command. Okay, and to do that, we can call the .apply function where we can directly access our action. Okay, so we can write action equals to music service enum dot start music dot toString. Okay, and after that we can directly call start foreground service for our start service intent. Okay, this will also require Android 26. The current minimum is 24 right now. We can go to more actions and surround it with an if else statement. Okay, so if this is greater than or equal to Android O or ORU in this case, it will call start foreground service. If it's not greater than Android O, you can call another function, which is start service, basically. Okay, start service doesn't treat it like a foreground service, but it will do in this case. Okay, because the Android version will not be greater than or equal to O, so it will not make a difference if this is called in those older versions. Okay, and we're going to copy and paste this inside our btn stop playing, but instead of start music, we're going to use stop music. Okay, and this will be our, let's name it stop service intent, like that. Stop service intent, which will be triggered here and here as well. Okay, and that's pretty much it. That's how you set up starting the service from your activity. But in order to have this service up and running, there are still a few more steps that we need to do. Because services are foreground services, in this case, we need to add a permission for that. So we can go to our manifest file and write user's permission for foreground service. Okay, as well as a permission for our notifications. Okay, because newer Android versions will require the user's permission and acceptance to be able to send that user the notifications. Okay, so keep that in mind. And also, to have this service registered in our application, we need to register it here inside our manifest. Similar to the broadcast receiver, you will have to go underneath your activity right there, and you will need to open a tag and call service. Okay, after clicking on service, you'll get a suggestion, which is MusicService in our case. If you don't get that suggestion, it's because you didn't extend service inside your MusicService. Okay, so make sure to do that. Don't forget about having your MusicService extend service. And now our manifest is properly set up with these two permissions. Okay, you don't need to request this permission from the user. It's not a dangerous permission, but you do need to request this permission. Okay, and since requesting permissions is not a straightforward task in Android, it actually needs some handling. We will make a very basic setup for that inside our main activity. Okay, so let's go ahead and first check if we have this notification permission. And if we don't, we need to request it from the user. We can do that with if context compat dot check self permission for this. It will also expect the permission string, which in our case will be manifest.permission.post notifications. We need to check if this is equal to package manager dot permission granted. Okay. This will check if we currently have that permission. Let's check if we don't have that permission so that we can request it from the user directly. Okay, so we can directly write here activity compat dot request permissions. It will need an activity, which is this. It will need an array of our permissions. It will be array of, here we need manifest, the Android manifest dot permission dot post notifications, and you will also need a request code. You can use one and you can use any other integer that you want. Okay, and if you hover over post notifications, it will tell you that this requires API level 33. Okay, because with API level 33 and above, this is mandatory, but it is not for the older versions. Okay, so again, go into more actions and click on surround with this if statement. Okay, which will handle if your current version is greater than or equal to tiramisu, which is 33 in our case, it will request that permission, okay, for the notifications, so that your foreground service can function properly on the newer Android versions. Okay, that's the setup that you need for this part, and we can go ahead and run our application. So let's do that. And there we have our application up and running in our emulator. It will directly ask us if we want to allow it to send us notifications because we did this check in the onCreate method of our main activity, which doesn't really matter in this context because this video is about foreground services. Okay, I have another video for permissions in Android, which you can check, and I will link that in the description of this video. Okay, so for now, let's click on Allow right there, and we have two buttons. Okay, if you click on the Play Music button, as you can hear, that's the annoying notification sound. If you scroll this down, you will see that you have this notification. Okay, and if you click on Stop Music, the notification will disappear. And with respect to foreground services, you will notice that notifications resemble that the service is running. Okay, so if I click on play music again, you will see that this notification will get displayed. Okay, which means that this service is functioning properly. And if I click on stop music, it will stop the service, and as a result, the notification will disappear as well. Okay, and that's how notifications work with foreground services, and that's how foreground services work in Android. Okay, let's create this media player. In this section, we will create it inside our music service right there. So let's do that with private var media player, extending media player equals to null. And this media player will be used to play our MP3 file. Okay, if you control left click on that media player class, you will find out that it is a part of the Android.media package. Okay, so it's provided by Android by default. And with respect to this media player, it's initially set to null right here, but we will need to create it inside our service. Okay, and we can do that inside our start music. After our start foreground service, we can do something like media player equals to media player dot one dot create, and with create you have to pass this for the context in addition to this file right there. Okay, this will be r dot raw dot sample music. You will already have sample music inside your project if you're using my initial setup. So after creating this media player right there, we need to start playing the music. We can do that with media player question mark dot start. Okay, we will need to use this question mark because it's initially set to null. Okay, we can't guarantee a value at this stage, and dot start will start playing our MP3 file. Okay, that's how you start playing music. Let's see how we can stop playing music. This can happen here inside our stop music function. We can do something like media player dot stop, and after that media player question mark dot release, and after that as well we can write media player equals to null. Okay, let's actually remove that from there and move it inside another function like this. Reset media player, and let's call that inside this function so that we can use this function here inside stop music, and we will also need to reset it inside the on destroy as well. Okay, so go ahead and override on destroy, and before the super.onDestroy call, you can directly call reset media player. Okay, so what will happen now is when the user clicks on the start button, this action will get invoked, which will call our start music function, which will start our foreground service and create our media player to start playing that media file. Okay, and inside our stop music, we're going to reset our media player with this function. We're going to call dot stop, and we're going to release the resources that are used by this media player before we set it back to null. Okay, and after that we're going to call stop self. Okay, there's another function that we can call right here, which is stop foreground, and stop foreground will expect a behavior. This behavior will be stop foreground remove. Okay, just to make sure that your service is properly removed and your resources are allocated properly. Okay, that's the whole setup. And now you can run your application again. So that's our application inside the emulator. You can click on play music. And as you can hear in this case, that's our music. Okay, and then you can call stop music, which will stop our music. Okay, and if you hate that notification sound like I do, you can actually set it to silent. Okay, let me show you how. Inside this create notification function, just before the dot build, you can do something like set silent, and you can set that to true. Okay, if you run your application again and you click on play music, as you will notice, you no longer have a sound for that notification. Okay, that's how you can customize your notification a little bit, and that's how you set up a music player with a foreground service. And as I've told you, we're going to make one more improvement, and we're going to create an application class for our application. We can do that like this. It will be our music application. We can have it extend application like that, and our application will also have an onCreate method. Okay, this class is normally used when you want to register things that only need to be registered once inside your application. Okay, because in a real-world application, you will have more than just one activity. So any configuration related to the whole application at that level needs to happen inside this class. Okay, so we're going to take this create notification channel. From there, we're going to paste it inside our music application. And we're also going to take this function and we're going to paste it inside our onCreate. So we no longer need this onCreate for our music service. We can delete that, and we can delete these as well. Because now our onCreate for the notification channel will only get triggered once, and that's when our application runs. Okay, but you also need to register this application inside your manifest. So go ahead and go into your manifest file and write name equals to, you get that suggestion for music application. Okay, after you do that, we're all set, and let's run our application for the final time. So that's our emulator, that's our application, and as you can see, it behaves normally. Okay, and don't worry about the notification not being received directly, because sometimes it takes a little time to get received. Okay, in this case, it got received right there, but sometimes it takes a few seconds. Okay, just keep that in mind. Note that in your manifest XML file for your service, you have another attribute that you can use besides the name of the service, and that's foreground service type. Okay, if you choose that option, here you will see that you have several different items that you can choose from. Okay, you can choose media playback, you can choose camera, you can choose many different options here. And this is used to provide some more information about what type of work your foreground service is going to do. Okay, and the system on your phone will benefit from this type of information to better allocate resources for your foreground service and manage app restrictions more effectively. Okay, by using the media playback option, you're informing the system that your service is used for media playback. And this can help the system manage resources like CPU and memory more efficiently when your app is playing media. And on some devices, especially those running newer versions of Android, there are strict limitations on background processes being executed. By declaring the service type, you may reduce the chance of the system interrupting your service due to these restrictions. So imagine your service is playing some music, and the Android system, for some reason, decides to temporarily stop the service or limit the resources which are used by this service. You will see an immediate change in the quality of the audio that you are listening to. Okay? Your application will be able to function like this. So you can play the music like that. You can minimize the application, You can even close the application and the music will continue to play, okay? Until you open your application again and manually stop that music. Because as we've said in the beginning of this video, this is a started service. Even though our main activity did start our service, but the life cycle of our service is not tied to the life cycle of our main activity. Okay, and that's why it was able to survive in the background and even after the application was closed. Okay, because that type of service will just keep on functioning until the user either stops that service or until it completes the job that it was intended to do. Okay? So if you like my type of content and you find it to be relatable, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for future content, and I'll see you in the next video.